the Florida Writer Podcast, a discussion about writing and other things.
Hello, and welcome to another edition of the Florida Writer Podcast. I'm your host, Alison Nissen, and today I am lucky enough to have with me Marc O'Brien. Marc, why don't you give us a 60-second elevator pitch about who you are and what you write?
Well, here we go. We go up the elevator, and I'm Marc O'Brien. I'm an author and a poet, and I wrote the book, The Final Friend, Sophomores in the Saddle. It is a very interesting look at facing adversity by using characters to describe what is this subject called facing adversity. It is a wonderful way because the characters interact on a college campus and on an athletic field that allows them to learn on a higher education level at a university in South Florida. As I said, this allows them to grow, mature, interact with each other, and be able to all work together towards one thing, the college degree. And I think I wrote a nice piece that is a good look at the 1980s, which I grew up in, and where I grew up and got my Barry University degree, and also was a member of the South Florida 100 Jumper Association from 1985 to 1988. So if you're looking for an insight into how to face adversity, how important friends are, and how to go about, how important is the academic classroom and how important is the athletic playing field, then you may want to pick up my book at Austin Macaulay, UK, and the title is The Final Fence, Sophomores in the Saddle.
Sophomores in the Saddle. Obviously, you're talking about the Hunter and Jumpers Association, which, this sounds really silly because I didn't grow up knowing much about horses. I assume this is horses that you're referring to.
Exactly, it's horses. It's equitation. It's lessons, it's schooling, and it's a good setting to discuss how differences in life or problems in life. I found it to be a very interesting way to explain things and to bring up subject matters about facing adversity. As you said, in real life, it was a very great experience for me because I do have a physical disability to be able to participate in an extracurricular activity. This is getting the education through an athletic field, which is a lot different than getting the education in the classroom. So basically, the 100 Jumper, the horse shows that I participated in Davie, Florida, in Broward County. In Broward County and Dade County. That's one side of the story. But it also has to do with going to college, going to university at Barry University, Dominican Catholic University, during his sister Jean Loughlin's tenure there as president. And I sort of brought the two together to make a very intellectual, I guess the English teachers would call it metaphorical, but a good look at what we dealt with as a generation that was healing the nation after Vietnam. And once again, the birth defect, disability, that type stuff, we got recognition, we got visibility due to telethons and charities, but it still is a very hidden demographic of what happened to the children of the 1960s. So 20 years later, when higher education, that college degree is so important, came into realm, I think I took a good approach of using fiction to describe all these elements of society with the hopes that the reader will walk away learning something and to be able to be enriched with some interesting knowledge from a different standpoint. Remember, in film, the John Hugheses of the world did not address in your St. Elmo's fires and your John Hughes service, they did not address that disabled community who really had to get that classroom education to be able to contribute in society today. So I hope I took that little fluff of the '80s and that obsession with athletics and competition. I hope I took that all those ingredients and put together a good fictional book. It's going to be a 3-part series from Austin Macaulay, UK. Once London opens up after this pandemic, we'll hopefully be able to move forward with my second part. And I think I have a very something special for the South Florida community, for the Florida community, an area that I feel very special in being that I spent the 4 years here to become educated in real life. And once again, it's called Southern Dominican Catholic University in the book, but it's actually, came from Barry University down in Miami, Florida.
Mark, this is a really interesting topic. You've fictionalized your life. Is that correct?
That's how I have other books out there on self-publishing. I also wrote Peter Pietrocanda's Playground, which is about a nice children's book for nurses to discuss healthcare with children. Once again, that has a lot of Barry University influence. But yes, I took the fictional route to explain things in my life because growing up with a disability, it's very individual. I mean, it's not something that has everyone is alike, and there's some similarities, but it's very individual. So for you to walk away from my book after reading it, to walk away with something like, I want you to interpret my life. I don't expect you to go take horseback riding lessons or go off and go to college, because I expect you to I want you to interpret my fictional work, because using fiction, you are able to discuss sensitive issues, and because you're not attacking people like an editorial in a newspaper or a column. Instead, you are looking at things in different ways, like going into seeing a painting in a gallery. You can look at something like that in different ways. So I think that is very important in developing those interpretive skills. I think that's something we're going to have to deal with right now, because all the reality could get very, very out of control. But if you are able to take those artistic venues and stick to interpretation and to understanding, we will be able to get our points across peacefully. Because when you read a book in a relaxed situation, you are in your own space. When I write a book, my reader is not like you're in a movie theater. You're sitting there watching it alone. You're reading it alone, so you are interpreting and you're thinking about it alone. So I'm able to get into your head a little bit, and hopefully I can show you things that, as a reader, you may want to think about. And as I said, this book has characters that think before they speak, and I think that is very, very important right now for people to be able to maturely talk to each other and respect each other. And I think fiction is a way to distribute that kind of information. Next to the journalist who is reporting facts. It's journalism is made for, as I said, growing up with a disability. It's a skill. That's what people are missing the point. It's not a profession. It's not a way to go get someone. It's not revenge. It's a skill where you maturely obtain information and then you distribute the information. And if you look at a reporter and a nurse, they parallel each other in many ways, because the reporter goes out, observes, asks questions in a sensitive way and reports back to the people. The nurse goes in, observes, has to deal with sensitive information, and reports to the doctor. And they look at the situation. They both look at the situation. They do what is important for the patient and for the public, and they are able to hopefully come to a peaceful resolution and make the society feel better. Once again, that's my Barry University influence, where I think that colleges should be able to work together, and all the majors should work together and make the community or the state a better place. And I think that's the stepping stone where we have to go in the future with higher education, and why it's important to everyone that there are 4-year degrees, and these kids are going to a school to give results for the community to become stronger. So, as I use fiction in that way.
Do you happen to have a background in journalism?
I've studied. I like to think of it as I've studied it. I have practiced it. I'm not practice. I like to think I'm not practicing the traditional journalism right now, because the sources are not, in my opinion, at a level where I can go out and cover a story for $20 or whatever, and do all that legwork. And also, I'm also a little bit more. I'm getting more enthusiasm writing fiction, and I can get my point across in a more stronger, nicer way. And but as I said, journalism is going through a phase where there's a lot of editorials, a lot of columnists, a lot of opinions, and a lot of immaturity, or a lot of holes. But did I learn how to write journalism? Yes. Can you read it in my books? Yes, because a lot of my information is very tight. I'm a tight writer. I have short paragraphs. I get to the point, move on. Unlike Stephen King, who's the English major or English teacher who goes on and writes 900 pages, my books are, in the 200-page range, except for The Final Fence, which I broke up into 3 parts. But a lot of my works, like The Legend of the Pixie Piper, Midnight Christmas Miracle, they all talk about therapeutic horseback riding on an interpretive level, but they are short bedtime stories, and I'm very proud of that. I would like the reader to be able to read my book on 2-hour plane flight, and maybe go back and read it again, opposed to having it, going on for 900 pages where you're spending months and a half, like I did with reading The Stand back when I was in high school and everything. So that's just you see my journalism, but when I do make my points in my books, in the style I have writing, where everything is very structured, and I don't describe a lot, but I make a point. I think that's why I walked away from after writing my manuscript, The Final Fence. In a way, I walked away that way, feeling good about it, even though I don't go out and do this drawing or this painting of what everything looks like. Instead, I stay with the point where I stay with the point where I make the point and go on, and I take on a subject and go on. And I think that's important, because I want the reader to walk away with something new to think about, opposed to fluffy. Another influence I have is that my generation is the one that really grew up on movies. So, in movies and television, where I think writers are starting to, stay away from it, because everything is based on visuals. My writings are based on, like what I call visions. So, in a way, when I sit down and write, I'm writing like I'm seeing a movie in my head, and I think that's just my style. So once again, that's the journalism opposed to the English teacher. I mean, we all have it, and with Microsoft Word out there correcting our grammar, I think that's a good thing because I think a lot of people need to sit down. Everybody can write. You don't need a degree. You don't need a PhD. You just need to have respect, and you have to have the need to get things off your chest. And I think that's a very good mental health aspect to the whole that mental health aspect to the whole procedure. And that's something that that's important right now. And I said, if we could just sit down and not, don't become so critical about things and talk about a lot of things where having different, talk about those things. I think we have a better society.
I agree in so many different ways. I like your approach to writing and that you're looking at it as a movie. I imagine that you don't spend a lot of time fussing over the little details if you're presenting it with a broad picture versus the minute details. Well, Marc, this sounds like a really important book for not only someone who wants to understand more about a person with a disability, but also somebody who is having struggles emotionally. Marc, how can people get in touch with you?
You can. I have a website. I have a note. You can get in touch with me by visiting my website on my author page to find more information about me at austinmacaulay.com UK. Or you can email me directly, Marc O'Brien 30@AO.com. I have no problem talking about my books, and if you are a reporter looking for good sources, here in Florida, I do like to talk about Baylor University and my experiences there. I'm a proud graduate in 1988 of this one good school from the Dominican Sisters. I was a wonderful experience with the South Florida 100 Jumper Association. And I'm also more than happy to talk to you about how I dealt with facing adversity. And I love to talk about my fictional work. So if you're a member of the media, reporter, or whatever, if you come across this as a podcast and you need some really solid references, just give me an email at marcobrien30@mail.com.
Marc, that's awesome. Thank you for that information. Marc, are you ready to switch to our rapid fire questions?
Right ahead.
What is your favorite color?
Blue.
Blue, so easy. The color of the sky during the sunny daylight day. Golf or ocean?
I have to go looking at the ocean.
Well, the ocean is always interesting to look at. I will give you that. The golf can sometimes be a little flat. Do you have a favorite piece of candy?
Truffles.
Truffles. Wow, truffles. That sounds delicious. Maybe I'll go find some. Anyway, Marc O'Brien, thank you so much for stopping by.
You have a good day, Allison.
You all have been listening to another edition of the Florida Writer Podcast with your host, Alison Nissen. Alison out.
Marc O'Brien uses his skill of writing to discuss important issues such as, is disability something that is subjective or is it objective? Is a diagnosis, opinion, or fact? His latest book, The Final Fence, Sophomores in the Saddle, takes a creative and honest look into a life filled with support due to well-meaning individuals that think before they speak. For more information about the Florida Writers Association, visit us on the web at floridawriters.org.